Hello chess friends and welcome to E00 Chess channel and welcome to another spectacular game from the TCEC Season 26 bonus Ultrabullet competition between the two top engines Leela C0 and Stockfish 16. Yesterday we have covered already a beautiful game from this event in which the engines had to play a 100 game match of Ultrabullet chess, so the tempo of their games was really crazy. 0 seconds on the clock plus 1 second increment per move, which is really dynamic, really wild time format. And Stockfish demolished, really destroyed Leela C0 in this finals with a clear result. Stockfish had 56 points, Leela C0 got only 44 points, but we have to mention that Stockfish did not lose any games in that event. And what also was very cool, I think, in this event is that the engines didn't have to play pre-arranged openings. They could play whatever they wanted to play, and surprisingly or not surprisingly, the engines choose to play only 2 openings. They played only the Catalan opening and only the Rui Lopez opening. So that's why yesterday we have covered an amazing Rui Lopez game, today an amazing Catalan, very open Catalan battle. I think the Catalan is sort of an opening that bothers many of us. So that's why I think this game, although it's an Ultrabullet game, has, I think, a really great theoretical value. First of all, great opening theory, great middle game strategies for both sides, for white and from black, and then also very cool tactics, but then also a great endgame strategy. So really a complete beautiful game here, played by the most powerful chess engines in the world. So let's dive now into the game with the white pieces here. Leela C0 opened with the move d4. The fish response was knight to f6. We have c4, e6, g3, the Catalan opening, and now bishop to b4, hitting the king. Leela covers, and now in this main line, we're simply retreating here, keeping everything so far solid, keeping, of course, also our dark bishop on the game. Queen to c2. Leela connects now the queen to the pawn. Stockfish, of course, challenges now the center with the move d5. Here, of course, we're trying, from black's perspective, to lock out somehow the long diagonal for the light square bishop, and now bishop to g2 by Leela c0. What white should not do, I think, is to play c takes d5. Then after e takes d5, I think black is a solid game. Black's next couple of moves, I think, will be very easy to play, because now there's simply no tension in the center of the board. The pressure is released. The game is not so tactical, not so dynamic, and I think now in the next couple of moves we play something like c6, then I don't know, maybe even g6, bishop to f5, hit the queen, knight from b to d7, queen to b6, castling, rook to e8, knight to e4. These are the main plans. So whenever the pawns are really traded in the center of the board, I think the game should not be so dangerous. Of course, I'm not saying black is winning the game because white traded off the pawns, but I think here black has gained already equality. Perfect setup black will get for sure. So that's why after move d5, like in the common Catalan, white is keeping now the tension, simply hopes that black actually takes d takes c4, and then the long diagonal for the light square bishop opens. We have a c6. Stockfish builds now this firm structure in the center. Leela develops. Stockfish secures the king. Leela secures the king, and now normal development again here also by the fish. Bishop to f4, placing the bishop on the most active diagonal, now hitting also in some lines. Maybe the c7 square, maybe afterwards white could maybe try c takes d5, then if something clears, maybe there are some tactics around the square, but Stockfish keeps it calm, plays first of all this idea b6. This is sort of a, I don't know, Queen's Indian idea. It's not the Queen's Indian anymore, but in the Queen's Indian you're also playing many times to move bishop to a6, and then you're trying to put more pressure against this really weak pawn on c4. Now Leela continues with rook to d1, places now the rook where already the queen is. If something clears now on the d file, then the queen on d8 could be endangered by the heavy artillery, by the rook activity. Stockfish continues with his plan, hits now the pawn on c4 further. We have knight to e5, counterplay by Leela, hits also the c6 pawn, and also protects so far the weak c4 pawn. Stockfish continues with rook to c8. Like Leela did, placing also the rook on the same file where already the queen is. So again, if something on the c file clears, then of course also the queen could be endangered. And what should white do? You could maybe try here queen to a4, hit the bishop, hit the pawn, but this is easily defendable with knight to b8, with controlling the bishop, with controlling the c6 square. And I think in the next couple of moves white will have to react here. White will have to finally make a decision what's going to happen in the center of the board. So that's why after rook to c8, Leela continued now with the most aggressive line, knight to c3, and now I think we will reach really the common, I don't know, the most dynamic position of the Catalan opening. Now Stockfish grabs the pawn, Leela loses the pawn, but keeps now, of course, the beautiful bishop here on the board. Leela has now great activity with the bishop, has also another strategic element, the pawn central control, because now there is no pawn on the d file. Leela's main progressive plan is to push the pawn on e4, so two great great really concepts for white, I would say. But of course, black has now an extra pawn, and it's relying here simply on this 4 versus 2 pawn majority on the queen side. So Stockfish will try to do something on this side of the board. So what should you do now, again, from white's perspective? If you try queen to a4, seems tempting. You're hitting this one, you're hitting this one also on a7. It's not so dangerous. Black will simply continue with b5. You're trying to take. We attack now here the knight. You have to play something like knight to e4, and now we play knight to d5. Look at this. Not a good position, I would say, for white. Black is better here. Black attacks the bishop, has here still some great chances to push something. Queen is a little bit endangered. This bishop is controlling everything, so I would say here really good position for black for sure. So after d takes c4, that's why Leela continues now with this idea. e4 has now this powerful center. These 2 pawns are controlling, of course, the center of the board. Stockfish continues with the control play on the queen side. Leela tries to undermine this attack, plays down the move a4, and now Stockfish plays again a nice solid move, keeps everything glued together, everything compact. Here on the queen side, we have a takes b5. Stockfish continues with a takes b5, and now d5, breaking and entering here by Leela c0. Really a common plan, I think, in the Catalan opening from white's perspective. But now Stockfish takes, good move. We have e takes d5, and now e5. Control play here by Stockfish in the center of the board. And again, let's ask ourselves the question, what should white do? The bishop is under fire. You could maybe try here also counterattack with the move d6. But this wouldn't be, I think, so good. We'll simply take. You can take out now this piece. Now with retreat, bishop maybe can take. You cannot take, of course, because of the rook activity. But I think, look at this. Queen to f2. Now we play something like this. Knight to g4, hitting the bishop and the queen. We take out now the piece. You try maybe rook to knight to d6. But now after rook to c7, I think black should be better here. This pawn is supported. Black has an extra pawn. You see, the rook is out of the attack by the light square bishop. This light square bishop is not so useful when there are no pieces to attack, so it's not, I think, the optimum position that white wants to get. So in this position, black is, of course, slightly better. So that's why after move e5, Leela tries bishop to g5. Stockfish continues now with bishop to c5. Hits now also in some lines the weak f2 pawn. There are maybe some tactics, I don't know, if maybe the queen moves somewhere, so I don't know, bishop to f2, king to f2, knight to g4, and then queen to g5 is a common possible tactic, a tactic that we should always consider, or maybe a similar tactic like this. Something is going on around the square f2. We have to admit it. Really complicated now position to play for both sides. Leela continues with rook to a6. It's not allowing also in some lines black to play the move queen to b6 and put more pressure against this pawn. So far Leela is controlling the b6 square. Stockfish continues with h6. Leela takes. We have knight to f6 and now queen to f5. Leela relies simply on this powerful d pawn. This supported pass pawn on the d file is hoping to make progress really with a beautiful piece activity. You could maybe try here knight to b5, because now the b6 square isn't taken by the rooks. You cannot play queen to b6. But then again, it gets very complicated for white. Queen to d7, you have to retreat. Now again, this line, look at this, knight to g4, hitting the f2 pawn. As I said, it's always about this f2 square for white. You have to cover it. Now we compete against the rook. You have to trade it off. You lost a little bit the battle on the back rank. Also now, from white's perspective, very complicated to play. Look at this. White continues with the defense. Black continues now with the attacking flow. And I think this is a position that a common Catalan player doesn't want to get. Because when you play the Catalan, you always rely that you are on the attacking side. You want to be the one that's controlling the tempo of the game. Now I think Black is out of this tactical mess and black gets control of the game. Black is simply on the attacking side and white is simply on the defensive side. So I think we have now reversed roles. It's almost like black is having here really a progressive idea. So it's not easy to play now the game for white. Rook to a1 is going to happen. So still there are some problems here. You can maybe try, I don't know, bishop to f1, hitting this one, but we simply continue like this. You're trying to push it, takes. Look at this, queen to c5. Too much pressure here for white to handle. Although this should be pretty equalish again, but I'm not sure. I would not love to play this game from white's perspective. So after move knight to f6, that's why queen to f5. As I said, Leela continues with the pressure on the d file here, and Stockfish continues now with rook to b8, finally protects now the b5 pawn. We have knight to e4, Stockfish retreats, we have d6, and now bishop to d4, hitting also the weak pawn on b2. What should you do now from white's perspective? Maybe Leela made, I think, here the first mistake in the game. Leela should have, I think, simplified the game, playing knight to f6, then after knight to f6, queen to f6, g takes f6, rook to d2. You're protecting this one, you have still this one, and this bishop could come into the game. I think this should be a drawish position because of these opposite color bishops, in my opinion. Nothing gained. Maybe, of course, black better because of extra material, but very tough to play again for both sides. But what Leela did, Leela rushed it with the pawn, played now the move d7. Usually you should push your pass pawn so when you have the opportunity to do so, but now Stockfish shows its own plan. Stockfish is saying, okay, you had your chance to trade off now the knights of the board. Now I'm going to keep more pieces on the board. Leela continues with rook to d6, supports of course the passer, but now Stockfish gets out, is now having, I think, a solid setup, can always protect the d8 square, and from this point on I think the game becomes really a one-way ticket, but in black's favor. So here rook to a1, Leela tries to occupy the a file. We have now g6 by the fish. Leela retreats, also hits the pawn here. Stockfish continues with rook to b6. Leela continues now with the pressure on the 6th rank, but actually this was again not the best move here by Leela, because Leela actually left the back rank now open for black to attack. So it's not so easy to defend anymore from white's perspective. This back rank, the 1st rank. A better choice was simply to release the pressure, rook to b6, and then after bishop to b6 you can again do something about this pawn, maybe protect it, maybe go in for the h6 pawn, but you should keep your rook on the 1st rank, maybe even go here to b1, protecting the weak pawn on b2. So that was Leela's best move, but Leela rushed it again. Stockfish continues now with this one. Leela takes, of course, and now king to g7. Stockfish protects first of all the weak pawn on h6, knight to d6 by Leela. Good moves Leela is playing, and you see now Leela had really a cool tactical sequence calculated, but Stockfish is also the greatest, maybe even calculator in the chess communities. Look at this. Stockfish says there's no worry here. You can have your piece activity, but Stockfish now continues with knight to f6. Now again Stockfish is getting the piece back. Leela continues now with knight to b5, but as I mentioned, we have now this stunner, bishop to f2, the tactic that we have discussed previously, that we have been waiting for. Bishop to f2, if you take here king to f2, then this one is coming, obviously. We pick up the knight, you can maybe retreat, but now look at this. c3 comes, of course, with a direct threat against the king. We'll take out this one. d8 is controlled here, knight is very well placed, controls the bishop. Not a good continuation here for white. If you escape here to h1 after bishop to f2, then again queen to d7, knight to queen to d7, knight to d7. Again, I think black should be better here. This one is weak. We have here 4 pawns that are connected. I think this should be again a completely winning endgame here for black. So that's why Leela tried king to f1. Stockfish continues with queen to c5. Leela plays now a beautiful rook to f6. As I said, Leela had here great sequence in mind, but look at this. After king to f6, queen to h4, everything is pretty much forced. Stockfish retreats, Leela promotes. Stockfish has to give up now material. Leela takes, but now after queen to b5, king takes f2, queen takes b2, comes with the check, and this is actually game over for white, because white has to give up the piece back here after c3 and c2. White has to now give up the bishop for pawn, and Stockfish continues now with the optimal position, has now 2 pawns more in the queen and pawn endgame, completely winning here. The king is secure, no checks are possible. Leela is trying to battle, but Stockfish delivers first of all a couple of checks, push this pawn, and now simply trade off the queens. Doesn't want to complicate things anymore, and after this one, obviously it's game over. Stockfish simply pushed the pawn further. Plays now also an interesting f4 here. After g takes f4, gets simply the king closer, created now 2 weak pawns. Leela can of course take, but Stockfish will grab now the f4 pawn, will grab also the h4 pawn, will have then 2 connected passers in an endgame, so obviously game over. And in this particular position, Leela c0 resigned. So, poof, great game, great Catalan, really interesting stuff. Tough to play. I think there are still many sidelines, many opportunities, but this is one concept that I really liked by Stockfish, taking out the pawn on c4, allowing this central breakthrough by Leela c0, but never rushing with anything. Stockfish kept everything calm here, then found counterplays, found also this beautiful tactical sequence in which temporarily Stockfish lost the minor piece, but then Leela had to give it back, and then it was of course an easy win for the strongest chess engine in the world. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. If you want to see more spectacular, brutal AI chess like this, check out our Come to Chess Games Played by Computers. And if you want to learn more about the Catalan opening, you can also check out our studies. I've created a separate series, the Catalan opening, from whites and from blacks perspective. Here's also the link, and if you like the content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.